All right, let's talk about the trolling motor and what we're gonna do. So, Minn Kota, all your trolling motors on the Minn Kota, the foot pedals, you have 3 screws that hold the foot pedal down. There's 2 up front, 1 in the back. Sometimes you might need to deploy the motor, flip it over just to get the foot pedal moved so you can get access to them. But if you just take your drill, you know, one thing that BassCat does that I like is the screws that they use are the square tip. So they're not a Phillips, they won't strip out on you at that square tip. So just get a long extension on your drill, remove those 3 screws, and then you can go ahead and remove the foot pedal. Once we get the foot pedal out of the way, then BassCat has our plate right here. So this is where we're gonna draw our power. This is where the wires come up for the trolling motor that run back along the side of the boat to the batteries. Again, the square tip, so we've got 5 screws right here. We remove that, so that access panel now is going to give us access to underneath the trolling motor. Another thing that BassCat does that I like is they use these plates. So these are the plates to add stability and support with the 6 screws that go into holding down your trolling motor. So when you pull these out, make sure that you label them. You know, I've got this one labeled top, so I know that's the top of the plate. This one's kind of obvious, the bow, because of the additional cut on it. But I just kind of label the holes, driver's side, passenger side. This is the bow plate, and then an arrow showing the direction that it goes in there. But I've got all 3 plates. So here I have my middle plate, and then here is the back plate. So I've labeled them all exactly that. You've got your screws in there. What I'll use is, this is a number 3 drive on here. So I will use the drill again to loosen them up, and then it's a 7/16, so I've got a 7/16 wrench. Just got to get access in there, get access to each one, remove all 6. Once you've removed all 6, make sure you save all your hardware, or if it is old, you know, I went ahead and got new hardware for the new trolling motor. Then we can go ahead and just remove the old trolling motor, and now we're going to go ahead and go through the process of installing the new Ultrex. All right, so if you notice, we've got the old trolling motor off, and I have the 6-hole pattern. Now this pattern is actually, even though there was a Minn Kota on here, this is a motor guide pattern. And the nice thing about all the Minn Kota motors, the Ultrex or the Fortrex, they have various hole patterns in them, so that if you had an existing trolling motor on it, maybe you were switching brands, you still have the same pattern. All you need to do sometimes is remove this side plate, and it shows access to additional holes if you had a wider pattern. If you look on the inside, you can see there is the 6 holes that I need. There's even an additional one here that lines up with this one on the outside. So there's a bunch of different options. You just got to find out which one's going to work for you. So for me, I already know which ones I need. And the nice thing about the Ultrex and the Fortrex is that the actual trolling motor comes off of the mount, makes it a lot easier to work with. Now, when you do get this brand new, you will notice that the piston, it is not under pressure when it's collapsed, so the piston's not connected. So we will connect that after we get this installed. I'll show you how to do that. It is pretty simple. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that you use the strap. You want to measure this out to where you want to put it on the boat. I like to run the buckle on the outside down fairly low. I use this additional, the box stitch as kind of my guide right up along the edge, you know, the frame of the mount there. I get it set up for where I know that the hardware is going to go through, and I go ahead and put the holes in there so that when I mount this, it's going to be mounted down through with the hardware underneath this. It's not loose moving around. That way it stays stationary, and I don't have to worry about possibly losing it when it is unstrapped. All right, so let's go ahead and get the hardware on. I'll show you what that looks like with the strap on it before we mount it. All right, now we got all the hardware on, I'll go ahead and tighten everything down. All right, I like to use a ratchet on these, so I'll tighten them down with the drill as much as I can, but then I just want to hold it in place as I turn with the ratchet, get it nice and snug. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and install our side plate, and that'll put our new side plate on. And if you also notice, this is a little trick, and this is if you have an Ultrex and you're running a 360, I screw down another strap to the side of this. It's just two like 1/2-inch wood screws that go through the side of the strap here, and I use it around the 360 just to further stabilize the 360 when I'm running in rough water. All right, so let's get this put on. All right, now let's go through attaching our piston. All right, so now what we've got is the hardware to secure the piston. You're gonna need 2 Phillips head screwdrivers, and I like to throw some Loctite on there. Just take a piston, get it lined up. This is the fun, tricky part, is we gotta put these spacers on either side of this piston. So we get this in place. There we go. Go through, and we're gonna take the other screw, put some Loctite on it before we throw it in there. All right, then we're gonna need 2 number 3 Phillips. This one has to hold the other side as we tighten this side down. All right, that's good and tight. It's got Loctite on both sides, so that's not going anywhere. All right, and there's how we have now added a piston to it. All right, and we don't want to close it with the piston without the motor being on it, because it's under a lot of pressure, and if you go to break that free, that arm is going to come flying up, most likely crack you in the hand or the face, and you're going to end up hurt. All right, so next thing we want to do now is we want to put our Ultrex on the bracket. Now, where this the hardware was to secure the piston was on this screw. There's a baggie that hangs on here with those parts in it. So we want to make sure that we remove that and do not lose these 2 washers that are on here, because they are self-locking. Set that to the side. That's what's going to hold our motor onto the bracket. So what we've got to do now is just kind of get this set at the right angle. We'll set the motor on, and then we just fit inside the bracket where these 2 are. It kind of just slides and locks in, and then that screw right here is what we're going to screw down to hold it on there. So let's get it done. Alright, we just wiggle that to make sure that it's down inside on both. Here's the groove here where this end slides in, and then the other side slides in right there. Kind of move it around a little bit so that gets locked in. That's it. She's on there. Now we just go ahead and mount the foot pedal. That's it. Now that we've got the bracket on, we've got our strap. We have the second strap. We're going to run our 360. I'll show you what that's going to be for later. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to close this up just yet. Probably this evening or something, I'll double check the tightness of all the screws underneath, and then every once in a while when you're running or after you get off a rough day on the water, just go ahead and take a number 3 Phillips and just double check your hardware and make sure that you can't freely turn it. If you can, and you probably want to go ahead and get back in there, tighten everything up. All right, so the next thing that we have to do is mount our foot pedal. So the foot pedal, now for this, I had a Minn Kota on here, so I have the same holes, the same type of pattern, so everything will line up. All I've got to do now is make sure the orientation of my pedal and my motor, everything's good to go. Drop this in there, and all the holes should line up, because the pedals are the same going from a Fortrex if you do go to an Ultrex. And just go ahead and do that. If your holes don't line up, or you're mounting this as a brand new mount, then get your foot pedal exactly where you want it, and then what you want to do is you may have to reorient the pedal so you can get access to the holes, but kind of straight down, just drill your pilot holes. And anytime that you're drilling, we'll talk about this more and more as we start drilling holes in this boat, but anytime that you're drilling into your fiberglass, I've heard different things. You know, some guys will talk about putting some tape down, like 100-mile-an-hour tape or some duct tape down, and then drill through that to prevent the cracking. The best way that I found, and it works every time, is figure out where you need to put the hole, then take your drill bit, put it in reverse, and start the hole that way. And what you're doing is you're basically heating up the gel coat, and you start to go through the gel coat, and it works fine in reverse. You can do the whole thing through the gel coat and into the fiberglass. Usually once I get through the gel coat, then I'll reverse the drill so it's going regular, and then just start nice and slow, and it goes right through, and I never have any cracking of the gel coat up on top. It comes out nice and neat. So if you need to, drill your holes, get this mounted. We're not going to do that right now because I'm waiting on the plate to come in. That will go underneath this area because I have to drill. I've got to put about a 3-inch hole in here underneath. That'll be underneath the foot pedal so I can access this area, get my hand in there, because we're going to mount the mini Kong that our Helix 10 up here is going to go on. So we'll do that in another video. But there you go. That's pretty much it. And then figure out whatever your connections are. For this, I just have to splice this and wire the 24 36 volt plug that goes on this, that matches up with this plug. I'll just take it off the old trolling motor, put it on, and then I am good to go. So there you have it. That's swapping out from the Minn Kota Maximum to an Ultrex.